and then was like,
Yes, yeah.
I love
What
that.
was the name of the book that this was a...
White fragility.
White
Fragility. And so the origin story of this play is that Melina, in the lockdown, read White Fragility and spent the next 3 days in like a fever writing this script as a response, as like a rage response.
Wrote stiff as a board from the bed, like...
It's just amazing to me they finished the book. So I just think if I was feeling that way about something, I'd be like, oh, I don't need this, it's not useful. But through that into...
Oh, yeah, no,
like,
I think clearly read every word.
Yeah. So, I don't know, good for him.
You know, I agree with you, but then at the same time, I think of certain YouTube videos that I've watched. I'm like, this stupid book. Stop it, I'm gonna keep going. I just want you to be wronger.
Yeah.
Wronger? Yeah. More wronger.
They technically already got to you at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so I have my own question we're going to start with, and then we're going to just go right down the line with Melina's questions. And then we can do some questions from everybody else. And you can post, we're going to audio record this conversation, and just give that right to Melina, since he can't be here today. And so I think that there might be some questions we put out there for him that, we don't answer, but are for him as well at the end of our conversation. And then, we'll probably try to aim to wrap up right around 9 o'clock. Does that sound good, everybody? Okay, so the first question that I just want to put out for anybody to answer, including our audience folks, is if we would just speak out some images or moments from the play that stand out in your memory as you just heard it, images and moments that stand out in your memory.
The Hitler Trump room full of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like, I've had that nightmare before.
Okay. Gay Hitlers and Trump, is that your reading of that?
I felt like you guys were playing a little gay.
I mean, that's just Shanks' very accent.
Years of
Okay, all right. Other like retina burn moments.
I don't know if it really counts as like a moment. There's something about the staging of like a conference room set taking up like 2/3 of a stage and like a hallway taking up a third that I've never really seen on stage, and like playing with the difference in volume of like when we can hear what's going inside and what's not. Like there's something I like about that, and I don't really know what it is, but it was an intriguing concept. Like I've been in enough of those like conference room fishbowl things where it's like you know there's two kind of plays going on at one point in time, so it'd be interesting to sort of see that.
You know, the conference in my mind, it just kept evoking the patent in front of the flag, but having Rhonda in front of the projected, just standing there and just like, you are right, just very like hair in a tight bun, so it's more or less a helmet. I don't know why, that's just what it wasn't in the text, that's just what I saw, just this monolithic thing against this guy that's like, I disagree. It's like, you're a piece of shit.
Okay, all right, what else? Or specific moments or lines that stand out?
There's the spot when Cameron knows exactly what's going on and the boss walks up to him and it's like, are we gonna play this game or are you just gonna fire me now? Let's speed this up.
Because I don't got places to be now.
Yeah.
The kind of tugging at belly fat abomination.
Yeah, the dominatrix gear busting it.
Yo.
Yes. Yeah.
That's getting into some Cameron shit.
It's his dream.
Sometimes some people don't want to admit they're a sub and they should be able to, it's fine.
It's like you wouldn't look at me the whole time, but now we're
You gotta spend a bunch of time asserting yourself, which means the other side has to come out. Yeah, it's a piece.
Great. Awesome. The first question from Melina is really too bad. Ah, my phone needs to be. My phone doesn't recognize me anymore. I wear a mask. Sorry. Okay.
New face.
Okay. All right. This is Melina's first question. What did you get from the play? Is there a point or a message? And if so, do you agree with it?
Ooh. Man. I read this last night in its entirety. And I was like, okay. There is a point. And I think it is very current and very important because I think everything that's gone on in the past few years, especially the way that social media has a place in bringing awareness to, like, I think that even in the midst of COVID, so many places that did not previously have diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings were grabbing after it, like, this is what we have to do, this is what we have to do, this is the thing that makes sense, we have to rise to the occasion, right? And so, like, that's a thing that's already existed, whether it was multiculturalism or pluralism back in the 80s and 90s, you know, we just have different words for it. But then with social media platforms, there is a disingenuousness where people think that they're doing something when they're actually commodifying off of it. And it could be your Rondas, and they're white and they're black and they're everything in between. I'm being very judicious with what I'm saying, but I can name off a lot of local people of color, black people, okay? Who are like, I'm gonna commodify off of the, and like, yes, you should get paid for your services if you're well educated and you've taken the time to study. But then we have the people who are touting and espousing whatever the case may be, who are super left or super white. I didn't mean it, because in the midst of this, but because of these polarities, it was a slip to say super white, but I know even in the last years that a lot of people of color having more conservative ideologies that have come to the surface. So anyway, the playwright has this satirical everything is just coming from all sides, and it is just like kind of like great satire does, shows the mirror, like y'all motherfuckers thought, yep. And yeah, there is a point, and I think it gets people to thinking and reassessing, like, I mean, because how many people put up a black square on their Instagram on some bullshit and didn't even know what the fuck it meant? Sorry, that's why I gotta reel it in, because you know, I'm getting a little Cameron up in here, but that's not to say that people's intentions aren't good, that it's not coming from a place of knowing what's, like, of wanting things to be better, of wanting to educate ourselves and to actually have genuine conversations about how to progress forward. But at the same time, keep it calming, but buy my stuff. Okay, I'm done.
I thought the level of escalation was wonderful in that it's a satire, like, and the satire that it reminds me most of is Life of Brian, Monty Python, which is because, I mean, Cameron's just trying to exist. Like, he's just trying to exist, and everyone else is kind of conscribing their ideologies onto him, and I ask him, like, how he should feel, and like, shouldn't he be mad? Shouldn't he do this? Shouldn't he think this? And so he's literally just trying to, like, even when he's given the opportunity to control his own narrative, that's weaponized against him, or weaponized for whatever bias or political gain that they might be trying to describe. And it just ramps up at every interval, and just keeps going until you have a bunch of Hitlers and Trumps in the room. Yeah, and the last, or the killer scene is like, it's like straight, it's from what I understand from the stage direction, it's supposed to be farcical and like kind of like just a really dumb fight, but then it gets really graphic in the descriptions. Like, you can tell that that's what they're trying to shoot for. It's like, this is going to be okay, but then here's actual violence. We're done fucking around.
Yeah.
Like here is actual violence on a black body, and like that's a gut punch that like really good satire can do. We've had our fun, but like here's the actual consequences of all these little jokes.
May I respond?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes, anybody can respond.
Hello, I'm Sydney. I have a reading later in this week. But I have no prior affiliation to this play. Okay. I feel like there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and I just want to say it back to Melina via this recording. One thing that I feel like is happening that I was very interested in is the absurdity of trying to address systemic racism, like without addressing capitalism. Do you know what I mean? Like we fully accept the premise of capitalism, and within this company that is a family, you know, like we're gonna use all that shit to try, and within that we're gonna try to dismantle this. And I don't, maybe I'm just like on my lefty shit, but it feels like no, it's all you can't. It's the rat with all the tails together. And another thing that I liked about it is that, which I feel like you were kind of touching on, is that I feel like it's raising the question for me, like, what are the limitations of theory? And like, what is, like, I feel like the conversation right now is kind of at this choke point where it's like, some people are really diving into the theory, and like, that can't be enough. And yet also people who have been truly doing the work in the communities are exhausted and like cannot be drawn on any further. And it's like, or should not be perhaps. And so it's like, well, what do you do? It's very interesting to me that he asks, is there a point or a message? Like, I think there are many points and many messages. And if so, do you agree with it? I felt very, like a lot of white theater-going people, I enjoy watching white people bumble. I think this is a very marketable idea. I think that listening to Cameron speak about like what he wishes it could be, it's like, yes, I wish that too. Like, oh, yay, I'm one of the good ones. Like, but then also there is not in this play a single example of a white person who doesn't like definitely fuck up within like 3 minutes of us knowing them. And so I think it's like I want to be like, yes, progress, like we do better every time, and yet it seems that we do not. So that's where I am.
Wow. Any other responses just to that first question?
Gosh, so hard to follow up after all these really good.
A lot of threads to grasp on too, for sure. Yeah.
One point that I got from it was how a lot of the rhetoric, especially like, you know, with an equity training that's like primarily directed towards white people, kind of the focus on systemic racism kind of absolves people from individual responsibility. And I really liked the focus on like thinking about individual prejudice, and like you can address like individual prejudices and feelings and like maybe make a difference in like someone's interaction in someone's life, and not feel like there's nothing you can do because everything's systemic, or like, and so what should we even do? Well, we shouldn't do anything, or so I liked bringing back individual agency and having, you know, room for those conversations in this play.
So Melina's next question is Rhonda right?
Well.
would say yes, even though she calls herself a Democrat. I'm a centrist. No, I
It's
just
really progressive, so much saying conservative.
yeah, contradiction in terms.
Yeah.
Like country music, it just isn't a thing.
Yo.
I feel like the thing that I found fascinating about Rhonda, fascinating, frustrating, flashbacks to those YouTube videos I can't stop watching. Like, is that she never made a point without countering the point a second later. Like there were, it's like it's the that idea of I don't know if I can wrap my words around my brain pictures.
You got it, buddy.
But she was, it's like, she would, yes, everyone's racist. Being racist is terrible, but it's okay. Everybody's racist. And it's like, what just happened in your brain to let you say that? Is she right? She's not even wrong.
She just don't say it.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's basically, she's a fart in an elevator. She's just terrible. No, I think she is the empty can that rattles.
Well, it's an empty can that rattles that says pay me.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, visit my store.
Yeah.
Execute
Yeah.
a gift shop.
It's interesting. I just noticed everybody when Dream Marsha came out. Like that was an interesting. I was so interested in like the distinctions between the dream self and the real self that we see in the first half of the play. That was just one thing. That was just one element of the play that I'm now just processing and thinking about. So he also included the questions: is Marsha right and is Cameron right? Right. These are all in here as well.
Okay, so one of my biggest questions, if I were in like a development position,
Sure.
like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I might steer Melina towards paying some attention to Marsha because I do think she's right about a lot of things. I'm not sure what her deal is. Like, what's her deal? Like, why is she, like, how around to swing that? You know what I mean? Like, what's she, like, I don't know. Like, I have a lot of questions. I don't think she's a perfect person or right all the time, but.
I mean, it's distinct with figuring out who Marsha is. Like, we see at the end, she ain't there. For the last,
Yes.
for the next seminar.
Yeah.
Right.
She ain't there.
She also not in
Like,
Mm.
I mean, because I was like, why, like, when we talk about one of the good ones, right, that applies, that's not just, Cameron's character, that's Rhonda, that's Marsha. It's because, like, there's these really, like, there's the moment where Marsha's talking to Cameron, and then Rhonda shuts off her voice.
Right.
She's not talking anymore, right?
Yeah.
She's not saying anything, and like she's saying all these things, but why isn't Marsha leading the training, and why is she tagging along, and what is Rhonda utilizing her for,
Yeah.
right? And it's she's like kind of a pawn, and like oftentimes people like, well, if I could just get up here next to the missus, I'm gonna be all right. I'll be able to do my own DEI trainings. Like all of that shit is real when you're trying to. And I'm not saying that that's her per se, but there's a lot of folks of color where the structure and the systemic racism, when the people in power, like you gotta get in where you fit in, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Right.
Oh man. She's getting this paper, she's getting this, I maybe have to do that. And so I'm like, oh, well, I'm blacker than you, so, but at the same time, so what is it all? And I think that the satirical element and just the way that the playwright is just throwing everything out there for you to kind of think. And that's the whole thing about our thoughts and opinions and our positionality as with our respective identities, whatever they may be, of how we walk in the world, like, yeah, she's gonna be right about some things. Cameron's gonna be right about some things.
Right. Right.
you know?
But like they're both right for different situations.
Right.
And everything in this is trying to put it on like this is all. It's like nah, it's some.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
It felt like everybody was arguing about something else. Like they were all arguing about racism,
Yeah.
but they were all like, you know, racism is a house with many rooms, and there are many different, and they all suck. But you know, I mean, like there are many different things. You know, it's a hydra, right? You have to kill all the heads. So like, if everybody's fighting, like it's like we need to focus on this. It's like you would say that because this is the important thing, and you don't want the important thing. It's like no, we're focusing on. And so I just feel like, it was interesting because it felt like there were times when Marsha was like, you know, my experience is more, or her experience is more real than Cameron's, because Cameron's got that half-white experience. And he's like, well, you've had some privilege on that, or like trying to play that card, but at the same time, it's like, are you pulling like, but positionally, are you doing some Candace Owens bullshit? Or like, what do you know?
Well, it's this fight that like within the black community, like as a black community, we still haven't figured out how to take on colorism, because you can't really take on colorism until you take on racism. That's a whole other thing. And there's this like there's a misunderstanding between dark people, between light people, between mixed people that are just kind of somewhere in the middle, and there's always the pieces of that fight. But then those are just the loud pieces of it, and 90% of it is just, hey, we just trying to live.
Right.
But people don't ever listen to that, hey, we're just trying to live. It's always just the, hey, we can fight about this. And also, culturally, black folk and white folk fight different ways and discuss different ways. And so a lot of times white people will try to commodify and jump onto a black discussion thinking it's an argument when it's a discussion. And that gives other pieces to all of the scenes in this show where Cameron and Marsha are constantly cut off by white people.
Yeah. That's the most apparent theme that I feel throughout the play. And I think that, I think it makes sense. Like it totally makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then in the larger conversation, I could be like people coming at the player, well, how come you don't have more representation, you know? But at the same time, this is a story that's being told. And it makes sense to me.
So we're at the end of our time just about, but I want to just end with, and I think what I'm going to do is I'll start an email chain with the playwright so that, because he has a long list of questions, we can't get through all of them now, but we can start an email chain and have a dialogue if you're open to that online. But are there any questions for the play that you have about it that you want to just pose to the playwright? Or things that you wonder about? Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Like they ain't fully formed ideas yet.
Bringing back to the discussion about Marsha, like what her intentions are, that is like the biggest kind of like question mark that I really do have just about the play as a whole. It feels like it's like where is this character coming from? Why, like what's their skin in this game, like participating in this, like being a pawn.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, so that would be my overall question if I saw this play outside of doing this. If I saw it as that it's like, with the right wing, like host guy, I mean, like the one of the good ones could be, I mean, a double meaning in that regard, like, oh, the right wing agenda found one of the good ones, a person of color who like, they can weaponize kind of thing.
Well, and I mean, there are white supremacists who will make impassioned arguments that the best thing for white folks and black folks is to be separate. That is the best thing possible. They truly believe it, and they think, no, that's just how everybody's going to get along best. And it's like,
That's not
that's fucked up and evil, but I see, it's like they also think they are an ally. I mean, it's this, call me a good person or I'll burn down your village mentality.
I definitely feel in this play, and the scene that stood out to me tonight was the hell scene, because that is a newer in the play's development history. It didn't used to have that hell scene, which I think made me laugh so much, especially after the brutality of the violence, and then just like, and then the idea of then that actor just being well and standing up and then being in this like hell situation.
Well, now I'm fucking here.
Yeah. Which there's something weirdly hopeful about the depiction of the afterlife that I just in this reading, it felt like it lightened something for me this time. But it felt like it really solidified this sort of dramatic rule that if someone cannot adapt, they are exiled. Characters that cannot adapt to their surroundings either die or are exiled. Right, and that happens repeatedly in this play, even to the end of him being like pushed out of that hellscape and into the next one, right, and through the next archway. Yes. Okay. We are at the end of our time, and it's 9:03. I want to just thank everybody for their contributions to this conversation, and also for giving us some of your artistry and reading the play together tonight. And thank you so much for being here with your presence and support. Hey, get home safe.
Thank you.
Yay. And after folks, what we'll do is if you want to email me one of two things. You can email me your Venmo handle, and I can Venmo you some of your fees from Theater, or you can send me a mailing address and I can mail you a paper check. Yeah, either